What happened to Islam is that it became pigeonholed into a small cubbyhole of our lives. When this Islamic civilization was split up into 50 plus nation states, it no longer was meant to inform the system. But our kids still memorize the Quran, our kids still learn our history, they still learn still. There's a disconnect. And when the Prophet ﷺ spoke about this vision, the Prophet ﷺ spoke about a future, a destiny for the Arabs. One where Salat al-Nikai would wear the bracelets of Kisra. One where Muslims would open Persia and Rome. One where the Muslims would go there as a daughter itself. Because this Islam, this vision of Islam, it is the most inspirational thing.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا ووفقنا لعبادة الصالحين. I'm sure in the United States, so how many raise your hands if you took elementary school or high school here in the States? Most of the room. Well, even in Canada, we learn the story of the American Revolution. Now, when you study the American Revolution, you're studying the story of a group of people, American revolutionaries, the John Adams, the Thomas Jeffersons, the Benjamin Franklins. And what they did is they had a specific idea, an idea about how their country could be different. You know, they had been under the rule of the kingdom of Great Britain under King George III. And a lot of them spent time in France and they got kooky ideas about liberalism, about the divine right of man and not the divine right of kings. Ideas of democracy started to float around, ideas of secularism started to float around. Thomas Jefferson said we need to build a wall between church and state. And these people started to organize. And all of us, in this country, we learned it is sacred, the history of the American Revolution, the story of the American founding, the Constitution. These are four things. You cannot go against these things. The way they're attacking Trump right now is that, he's going against the white, going against the American Constitution. On the website, just recently I saw that on the news, the White House website deleted aspects of the Constitution that were posted on the PDF or something like that. Aspects of the Constitution that Trump doesn't like. And this is sacrilege. Anyway, all of this is to say, America was founded on an idea. America was founded by ideological revolutionaries. And they had their founding fathers and their founding doctrines. And the idea, at least in theory, the idea is that America is based on this founding. It's really not based on soil. Some people would like to think so. Some of the more racialist people would think in terms of, and then we do know that the founding fathers were racialist to the extent that they wanted this America to be for white people. But white people with a specific idea, that's why they went against the British. There's a great book by Bernard Bailyn called The Ideological Origins of the American Revolution. And I like it because the very first page, the first chapter, starts with the quote from John Adams. And he says, the real work of the American Revolution was not 1776. The American Revolution was won in the 15 years before 1776. Because those were the years where the American revolutionaries spread the ideas of the American Revolution through their dawah. They had the Sons of Liberty for the boys, for the men, for the brothers. They had the Daughters of Liberty for the sisters. And they pamphleted, they spread the ideas. There was a discourse, there was organization, there was a Continental Congress. There was motion. I don't talk about this because, this is not the story of the American Revolution. I'm not invited here to speak about the American Revolution, but I'm speaking about it because we as Muslims, we have our own founding fathers. We have our own constitution. We have our own ideology. And just like the Americans, we learn about our founding fathers. The Prophet ﷺ and Sahaba are our founding fathers. Just as you had, who was the first president? George Washington? And then John Adams, was it? Thomas Jefferson was number 4, I think. Something like this, right? I don't know the American history well, they should. But you know, we had our Khulafah Rashidun. They had the Prophet, we had the Khulafah Rashidun, right? We had Ustadh Abu Ibrahim. But the difference is, America still exists as a country which is based on that founding. We as Muslims, we talk about our fathers, we talk about our constitution, which is the Quran, and we talk about our ideology, which is Islam. But there no longer is a country, there no longer is a civilization which is based on that founding. And isn't that a shocker? Isn't that something that feels weird? Like imagine 1,000 years into the future, America becomes split out into 50 nation states. There are 50 states right now. But all be 50 states and become 50 nation states, and they're not capitalists anymore. They're commies. Say Corey. But they still speak about the American founding. They still speak about their founding fathers. They still speak about the American Constitution. They revise it in school. They study it in school. But their countries are no longer based on capitalism. Wouldn't that be quite a ridiculous state of affairs? And yet that is our state of affairs. When this Islamic civilization was split up into 50 plus nation states that were not based on the Islamic system, that are now based on a different system. Okay, but our kids still memorize the Quran, our kids still learn our history, they still learn still. There's a disconnect. That disconnect, very few people realize. Because what happened to Islam is that it became pigeonholed into a small cubbyhole of our lives. It no longer was meant to inform the system. Imagine the American founding and the American Constitution. You know, they tell a story of George Washington never told a lie like this, cutting the apple tree up. Well, some big know the story. But the point of that is, like, imagine we started speaking about the founding of the Constitution in terms of the morals and the attitudes of their founding fathers. They always put the American founding and the American values in terms of, you know, being nice to one another, whatever it is. Yeah, like in terms of individual behavior, maybe pledge of allegiance to the flag, that continues to happen. These kind of rituals, but without the underlines. You know, we're not necessarily used to picky about Islam as a system, so it's useful to take these analogies. And definitely, the point in the analogy is for us to see where in our Islamic history, in our Islamic paradigm, we have this idea of the Islamic quality way better than the American quality. It's based on the real divine theology. It was said our founding father was a prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And our civilization was really a role model civilization, unlike the American civilization, which achieved dominance and power, but did not achieve justice. So we young Muslims of today, you know, and all non-discriminated, we need to be the ones who can revive this understanding of Islam and the Constitution, Islam as a founding ideology for a nation. It's difficult. It's tough when the Ummah has for more than 100 years existed in a state of defeat. There's a concept called the sour grapes effect. They tell the story of the fox who wants to reach some grapes high up a tree. And it jumps for the grapes a little bit, and it can't reach them. So what does it say? It says, those grapes must be sour. You can see the psychology at play. When you fail at something, so suddenly that thing is uncorded. This is the psychology of school children. You ever play a game with school field and you know that one Eric kid, like he loses the game? So you know, this is a stupid game anyway. This is how Muslims think about politics. We lose at it, and so it's stupid. And you know what? If you're pious, you shouldn't get involved in politics. This is dirty. The real iman is, and you just come to the masjid and build your own relationship with Allah. And forget all this politics and it's not the real things. The dunya is not, it's about the akhirah, it's not about the dunya. Whatever happens in this world is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. Who we give victory to, who we give defeat to. It's all best okay. Khalas, you just don't up to the game. Because we lost that. It's very crushing. It's crushing to think about Islam as political and that it's not buried in politics. It's crushing to think about the mission of Islam as establishing the divine blood of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If that's the mission of Islam and it's not a square inch on the planet where that divine law is established, isn't that like embarrassing for 2 billion Muslims? What does that say about our prospect for Jannah? Seriously. That's your mission. See, like if your mission is prayer, oh, I can pray. If the mission is be a good person in my daily life, as they say, scholars Islam in your daily life, I can do that. Sure, that's easy. Not too easy, but I could do it. But if the mission is to establish a policy, if the mission is to reflect the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only king of the universe, hold on, who's doing that? I'm not doing that. That's pretty difficult. Why haven't we been able to do this? What does it take to do this? I'm not living my life with that. It's a scary situation. It's a scary conclusion. But we have to, and maybe one of the mistakes that many people like myself make is that when we speak about this topic, it's all doom and gloom and fear. And when we speak about the mission of Islam, it is like I am giving you a burning coal. That is not my intention. And it is wrong if I create that emotion. Because this Islam, this vision of Islam, it is the most inspirational thing. And when the Prophet ﷺ spoke about this vision, he did not fill the hearts of the people of Quraysh, he did not fill the hearts of the Sahaba with fear and doom and gloom, even though that had its place. When it came to motivate Jahannam, that had its place. But the Prophet ﷺ spoke about a future, a destiny for the Arabs. One where Sawad and Nikai would wear the bracelets of Kiswa. One where the Muslims would open Persia and Rome. One where the Muslims would move the Arabs of Donner and so. This kind of speech, and I mean, when you hear that kind of speech from the Prophet ﷺ, where is that speech today? Who speaks like that today? Who has the audacity to be grandiose? Who has the audacity to be grandiose about Islam? No, we want to be grandiose about Islam. We want to be realistic. We want to be pragmatic. We want to be tickle or doubt first. You know, read a page of Quran a day. Yalla, come good with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with that. Be a little bit nicer to your neighbor. I'm not being any good deed. I'm sick and tired of that small-mindedness that many people approach Islam with. And they never ever scope into our youth about Islam in a way that is grandiose. And in fact, when somebody tries to speak about Islam in a grandiose way, and they try to instill in the youth the vision for Islam just as the way the Prophet ﷺ did, they call it romanticism. You're romanticizing our history. You're describing Islam as some kind of utopia. Be realistic. Well, I don't apologize for that. It's not good. What is worth being romantic about except for Islam? Yeah. We should all be romantic for Islam. We should all be idealistic for Islam. Is it worth being anything less than that for Islam? This is not some... Listen, this is the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a divine project, it's a divine reality. I don't believe we're going to understand that and stop pouring water over the fire that is raging in the hearts of the youth, that wants to make something of their lives for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But no, we just want to dump cold water and say, be realistic. Look at you over-hiking the youth, charging them up, overzealous. Zeal is a good thing. Yeah, it can be some trouble if not careful, but the basic idea is a good thing. But unfortunately, this is what you get with someone that is traumatized. That's why I use the word audacity. It takes a little bit of courage, a little bit of audacity to have a vision. Because when you have a dream, when you have a vision, you might fail. You might not achieve it. It's a big idea. Okay, I'm gonna go and I'm going to revive the Islamic civilization. 5 years past, 10 years past, 15 years past. Where you're no closer. You did it, well, at least maybe you're closer, but you didn't achieve the goal. That's a pretty difficult place to be in. If only you just said, well, I'm gonna try to be a better Muslim today, tomorrow than I am today. Or today that I am yesterday. Well, you can look back and see, you look at your deeds and see that you did something a little bit better. But the minute you start speaking the way the Prophet ﷺ spoke, I mean, imagine the Prophet ﷺ spoke in that way. And we know the Prophet ﷺ is haq, but just think about it in the minds of the non-Muslims at the time. The Prophet ﷺ was speaking this way, and things are difficult, the situation is dire. What if he doesn't achieve that? In what position will he be in when the Prophet ﷺ dies and Islam is where it starts? This is why some of the Munafiqeen, during the Battle of Khandaq, when the Muslims were in an existential situation and annihilation was on the horizon, one of the Munafiqeen said, how is it that the Prophet ﷺ tells us we're going to have Persia, we're going to have Rome, and we're too afraid to even leave our safety to your enemies? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verses about this man. And I said, these were candidate kufr. This is a word of kufr because they get going against the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the promise of takdeed Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But today, Muslims feel safe to say the same thing. Yeah, after we're talking about revival, we came to do school and the Ummah is this and the Ummah is that, and we can't do it, it's not realistic. You're just taking the fire of the youth and you're dumping my son. Yeah. People will have to ask them for how they're playing with the hearts and mind of the youth. It's one thing to not be inspirational, it's another thing to be deflationary. You come into a talk, you're excited, you inspire it, you come out feeling like there was ruined, there's no future, there's no vision. If there's no, the Iman is dangerous, brothers and sisters. The Iman is dangerous, never forget that. Y'all know, this person might have some issue, this movement might have some problems, we might not have the best strategy, things are going bad, this brother is not picking up his weight, whatever is going on. You think the Sahaba didn't have issues? They didn't have gaps, they didn't make mistakes. It's the Iman, brothers and sisters. The Iman was also bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Iman is the vision, and Iman is the engine that creates that vision. And the tazkiyah. But also bil haqqi, we have to enjoy each other in this truth, in this vision, in this mission. What also this sabr. We have to keep each other firm and remind each other, give feedback to each other, help each other. We're all in this together. Don't forget your fellow brother and sister. Don't forget the bird's eye view. That we, at the end of the day, we decided to spend our lives to la ilaha illallah, and that's something very special and beautiful. That very few people have.